Hello there. Thank you for visiting iFilm Recap. Today I'm going to explain a movie, Equalizer. Robert McCall starts off ahead of schedule to go to work at Home Mart. McCall has an OCD that makes him time all that he does, from preparing for work to simply washing the dishes. He is regarded and popular among his associates who have no clue about his past. On this day, he eats with his companion and associate Ralphie, whom he is currently getting more fit. He questions Ralphie about his lunch and is happy with his responses until Ralphie whittles down his sandwich and McCall listens to a crunch and finds there or contributes the sandwich. McCall reminds Ralphie he should be dropping load for his test to turn into a safety officer. He additionally reminds him to constantly hold back nothing, flawlessness. Most evenings, McCall can't rest, so he took to going to a nearby Every Minute of Everyday cafe where he understands books and beverages tea. He is presently perusing The Old Man and the Sea, a youthful whore, with whom it is suggested Robert converses with once in a while, inquires as to whether the man in the book has gotten the fish. He says not yet. The young lady completes her pie and goes to flag down a taxi. He returns to the coffee shop that evening and runs into a similar young lady. She sees he's perusing another book. Robert tells her how the other one finished. As they are talking, a limo pulls up opposite the burger joint. She then gets a call from her pimp, Slavy. He tells her she has a client, which is the man in the limo. She tells her pimp she would rather not work with this client since she finds him appalling, yet her pimp disregards her sentiments and advises her to go to work. The vehicle entryway opens to uncover a large man hanging tight for the young lady. Hesitantly, she heads outside and goes along with him. The following evening, McCall tracks down the young lady at the coffee shop, however she has an injury all over. He gives her a donut that he got from work. Apprehensive, searching for a calm voice, she chooses to break their typical convention and sits with him at his table. She presents herself as Terry, despite the fact that her genuine name is Alina. She hands McCall a CD that she recorded of herself singing, wanting to hear his point of view later. She suitably reasons that Robert has been as of late windowed, nevertheless feels lost without his significant other. Robert affirms she figured correctly and uncovers that his perusing propensities are propelled by a perusing challenge his better half couldn't wrap up. Both of them leave the coffee shop talking and strolling for some time. As they're going to head out in different directions for the evening, a vehicle pulls dependent upon them. It is Slavy and his driver Tevi. Slavy gets out and slaps Alina. McCall thinks about meddling, however is cancelled by Alina. Robert sees Tevi has a weapon in his grasp. Slavy strolls over to McCall and gives him a card for his business and recommends he picks another young lady. McCall then goes through a couple of days and evenings without seeing Alina and is clearly stressed over her. One evening, he gains from the cafe's director that Alina is in the ICU subsequent to being beaten severely. McCall goes there and sees Alina's face significantly more swollen and screwed up. He likewise sees she is with another young lady, Mandy, who's crying wildly. Robert doesn't go into the room, however sees from a good ways, concealed by the young ladies. Mandy later strolls by McCall, crying. She gets some espresso, however spills over the cup. McCall solaces her and gets some information about Alina, making sense of he's a companion. Mandy uncovers that Slavy hit Alina and she hit him back. McCall contemplates on the circumstance for a couple of days before at last choosing to act. Utilizing the card Slavy gave him, McCall goes to an eatery where Slavy and his men are hanging out. McCall enters the workplace suite over the eatery with an envelope containing $9,800 which he presents for Alina's opportunity. The hooligans giggle at McCall and Slavy makes sense of that he gets such a lot of money flow off of Alina being youthful to the point that $9,800 could get her 1 month of opportunity. He then snickers at McCall's deal and recommends he ought to return home and jerk off multiple times. Then, perhaps, Alina wouldn't be worth so much and he could think about liberating her. McCall takes the cash back and begins to leave. He nearly leaves, however at that point chooses to remain and locks the entryway. After cautiously noticing the men and anything weapons they might be holding, he sets the clock on his watch and moves right into it. All of Slavy's men including him are all finished by McCall within 28 seconds only. Robert apologizes and returns home where he tidies himself up and really dozes the entire night for once. Following the killings, a Russian mobster named Teddy shows up in Boston to explore what has been going on with Slavy and his men. He collaborates with a gathering of degenerate police to acquire leads. Up until this point, everything focuses to a posse hit from an opponent crowd. At work, McCall sees Ralphie isn't in. He's led by a director know that Ralphie brought in stops. McCall visits an eatery that Ralphie's mom possesses. Ralphie is helping her after a fire broke out, evidently coincidentally. The other two grimy police, Reamer and Peterson, are eating at Ralphie's mom's eatery. They blackmail her for insurance cash and guarantee that there will be another mishap in the event that the cash isn't on time again 1 week from now. McCall finds them outside the eatery and says he might want to report a wrongdoing. They get over him and advise him to call 911, until he calls one of them on his own mobile phone. McCall plays a video he took of them blackmailing a general store representative, during which they admit to lighting the fire at the cafe. McCall lets them know they can either give the cash back or the video will raise a ruckus around town stations. The police hold him at gunpoint, yet McCall rapidly beats them both. They agree and later return the cash to Ralphie's mom. Before long, McCall is seen playing baseball with his colleagues when Ralphie appears in a safety officer uniform, having finished his assessment. Back working, Robert goes to see Jenny, a clerk, for a discount when he sees she's managing a man quietly committing theft at gunpoint. McCall smoothly comes over and gives him the cash. The hoodlum additionally requests Jenny's ring, which was her mom's. She mournfully hands it to him. McCall notices a few subtleties of the man, similar to his tattoos and his garments. He thinks about taking action, however doesn't, since kids are entering the store and could get hurt simultaneously. McCall rather follows the man outside and gets a decent glance at the vehicle plates on his ride. The police illuminate them that this was part regarding a series of burglaries from a similar man. McCall then goes to get a demo hammer off a rack. The following day, Jenny finds her ring in the register and McCall is seen returning the demo hammer to the rack subsequent to cleaning it off. In light of that new data, Teddy finds video proof of McCall going into the eatery yet none of him truly leaving. Claiming to be a criminal investigator, he visits McCall at his condo, who sees through him immediately yet at the same time responds to his inquiries with his pre-arranged replies. Teddy leaves feeling McCall is much more than he lets on. Teddy gets some more data about McCall. However, what they can find about him shows a spotless record with no follow that he has any contribution with Slavy's demise. Teddy gets the inclination that all that they are familiar McCall is simply made-up data. He and Frank, alongside another bad guy, stand by outside in a vehicle while another person enters the burger joint where McCall is eating. McCall makes up the man immediately and inquires as to whether they're sitting tight for any other individual. The man takes out a firearm and strolls over to him. A truck pulls up before the cafe, darkening Teddy's view from his vehicle. McCall raises a ruckus around town in the stomach with his book, and afterward kills him by throwing his head down on the table and breaking his neck. He then turns off the lights by putting a blade in an outlet. He leaves the cafe and snaps photographs of Teddy and his men in their vehicle with his cell prior to leaving. Knowing where he resides, the criminals follow McCall home. He heats up a honey to watch out for an injury supported from the shooter while the criminals quietly enter his home. They burst into his loft just to uncover that McCall is in another condo, watching them with stowed-away cameras. McCall has established proof in his condo that he is leaving town, yet Teddy doesn't get it and feels that he is watching. McCall really leaves town, however, just to visit his lifelong companions Brian and Susan Plummer. They clearly have a past filled with cooperating for some inside organization. McCall gets some information about Teddy and his employers. While she is out social occasion data, Brian and McCall discuss McCall's vehicle bomb mishap that had everybody, including Brian and Susan, except Robert was dead. Brian makes reference to that in some way. Susan realized Robert wasn't genuinely dead. At the point when she returns, she lets McCall know that the men he killed were essential for the Russian Mafia drove by Vladimir Pushkin. Teddy, who is truly named Nikolai, is the man Pushkin sends when something should be managed in no dubious style. Robert leaves the following morning subsequent to persuading Susan's approval to be the man he used to be to complete what he began. McCall finds Frank Masters and traps him in his vehicle, which he has manipulated with a hose from the tailpipe. He enlightens Frank he better give him valuable data regarding Pushkin's tasks or he'll pass on him in the vehicle to kick the bucket. Plane at last yields and takes McCall to a distribution center where the Russians count and reserve enormous beds brimming with cash, clearly a large number of dollars in real money. McCall effectively convinces the hoodlums to give up. He attaches them up in a room with all the cash for the police to find. At the point when the police show up, they track down the hoodlums, the cash, and capture Frank. McCall goes to Frank's security store box and recovers some cash, identifications, and a USB stick containing more data specifying Pushkin's tasks and uncovering everybody at present on Pushkin's finance, including cops, delegates, lawmakers, and so forth. McCall sends the data secretly to the analyst accountable for the distribution center bust. McCall likewise finds one of Pushkin's oil big haulers and explodes it alongside a few trucks in a distribution center. Teddy brings in a group of professional killers from Russia to help him track down and take out McCall. As he's eating with the group chief goes to the restroom. A couple of seconds after the fact, McCall sits before Teddy and drops the horrendous shades from the group chief, telling Teddy he won't return. The two have a discussion where Robert lets Teddy know that he knows precisely what Teddy's identity is and offers him an opportunity to quit everything before Robert completes the task and takes out the whole association. Teddy rejects the deal and egotistically tells Robert that he genuinely doesn't make any difference to him. Robert leaves the table in the wake of suggesting that he won't hesitate to continue onward. Teddy finds an image of Robert emerging from work with Ralphie. Lastly, feels he has found a tension point on McCall. Two of Teddy's men take Ralphie, Jenny and other Home Mart workers prisoner, with the danger that they will kill them except if Frank meets Teddy where he exploded the big holler. The lowlifes track his wireless and anticipate his appearance. At the point when he doesn't show at the gathering place close to the exploded oil terminal, the partners in crime in Home Mart get ready to execute one of McCall's colleagues. Music out of nowhere starts playing over the radio. One of the mobsters takes Ralphie to track down the source and is killed by McCall. The other prisoner taker moves summoned from the prisoners by McCall communicating in Russian and afterward gets additionally killed. Teddy and his other employed hands come to Home Mart. They attempt to track down McCall and are consistently killed individually as McCall subtly moves about the obscured distribution center, laying out snares with instruments tracked down on the spot. Ralphie gets back to help McCall and is shot in the leg. Teddy is the last man searching for McCall when the propane blast sets off the sprinklers. Teddy tracks down Ralphie and is going to shoot him when McCall emerges from stowing away with a stud slam set weapon and shoots Teddy with it a few times until he approaches him and shoots him. Teddy inquires, "Who are you?" To which McCall doesn't reply and watches him bite the dust. He then leaves the store. After 3 days, McCall appears in Pushkin's restroom while he's showering in his Moscow home. McCall turns the lights on and off more than once and runs the sink water until it spills over. Pushkin converses with him for a couple of moments and afterward McCall vanishes. Pushkin recovers his weapon from by the sink. He requires his gatekeepers when he unexpectedly sees that McCall has cut the electrical wires and allowed them to stay uncovered on the floor. Pushkin is remaining in the water when it arrives at the wire and he is shocked. As McCall leaves Pushkin's home, he passes various gatekeeper bodies, uncovering he most likely has killed everybody in the house. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more movie recaps.